I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. We're going to get started. I'm going to first ask Pastor Mike McGowan to lead us in our invocation.
All right, let's bow. Heavenly Father, I want to say thank you for, first off, the city of Fulshear and all of its leaders that have made our community what it is. And I thank you for the opportunity to come and hear from other potential future leaders. And so I ask that tonight that you would give them clarity of mind, you give them clarity of speech, so that we, the patriots, can help understand what their vision and what their thought is, and that you would give us wisdom and insight so that we can elect the leaders that really you want to help lead us forward in the future. And so I pray for civil discussion. I pray for insight from each of these candidates and insight on our part so that we can see who they really are and what they really represent. So I ask you to do all of this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. If you keep your seat, please, I'll lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can be seated. I want to first start out and thank everyone for coming out this evening. On behalf of the Fulshear Area Chamber of Commerce, we welcome you. We're going to recognize a couple of people to get going. We're going to keep the introductions and everything brief because we want to give the candidates as much time to answer your questions. I want to first start out by recognizing all of our elected officials that are here tonight. Mayor Tommy Kirkendall is here. Council Member Tiana Messick and Council Member Tricia Krennick. Are there any others in attendance that I missed? Okay, thank you. This event was put together by a committee of 4, and I would just like to have them stand real quick and be recognized. I've got Colette Horton is right here. Kay Collick. Laverne Patterson. I don't believe Laverne's here. And then Daniel Van Holten. And I just like for y'all to give them a round of applause. They've done a lot of work getting this put together. Also, our sponsor tonight is Commercial State Bank, Shelley Pope, and Ashley, I'm sorry, are here tonight. Thank you. And First Cup Cafes provided the coffee. Rachel Durham has provided us with the water and soft drinks. And Center Court Pizza has provided the food. We'll give them a round of applause. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We're going to go through the rules. The rules are real simple. The candidates are up here in front of you in alphabetical order. The first question will be given to the candidate on your left, and that candidate has 90 seconds to respond, answer that question, and then each candidate will have 90 seconds going down the line. The second question will go to the second place, and it'll just continue around like that. At the end of the questions, once all the questions are answered, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. There will be no questions taken from the floor. All the questions were submitted over the last month or so, and the committee has put the questions together that the moderator will be asking. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple format, and I will leave you all, walk away from here with a little bit more information about all of our candidates. I'm going to turn it over at this time to our moderator, Mike McGowan, and I also want to recognize Oscar Fleming. Yeah. Sorry about that, I butchered that. He is the coach at Churchill Fulshear High School. So I'll turn it over to Mike at this time.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. I would like everyone, if you would you take just a moment, Candace including, if you would silence your cell phone, that would be very helpful because nobody wants to be that person. So if you would take a second and silence your cell phone, I just silenced mine. So if everybody would do that, that would be very, very helpful that we can have a great night. Okay. On my left is, or on my left, everybody's left is BJ Ariel. Glad that you're here tonight. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for coming tonight. And next we have Stephen Gill. Stephen, glad you're here tonight. Thank you, sir. And Councilwoman Tricia Krennick, glad that you're here tonight. Thank you. And then Dub Miller. Thank you, sir. And then James Murdoch. Thank you, sir. Fantastic. All right. BJ, the first question is going to be to you. With your current employment obligations and commitments, will you be able to commit the time necessary to fully support the City of Fulshear and its goals? And will you have time to adequately prepare for each council meeting so that you can make an educated vote on all issues present?
Thank you very much for the question. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for organizing this event. Thanks to the Commercial Bank, and thanks to all the attendants here. I really appreciate you coming here and giving me this opportunity. And as far as time is concerned, I'm quite busy now. I have 2 kids, I have a job, and I have everything. But I think it's all about commitment. What are you committed to? What is your priority? So my priority, that's why I'm running for the council, my priority is to work for the people. So among all that time, I can always cut back on time I watch a movie or I do any of my extra activities. So I am very much committed to this position, and I would like to say that I will manage time and I will make time so that I give all my focus on the council meetings and make sure I go to the residents and I hear their concerns, and I go door to door and talking to people and making sure their concerns are brought to the council meetings and addressed. So I'd like to say that I'm very committed to this position, and I'll definitely manage time and prioritize this as my highest priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Gill, same question to you.
Thank you very much. Once again, thanks to everybody for putting this on, and thanks for coming this evening. I've had the pleasure, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have served the city for 6 years as a council member. And so during that time, I think my attendance, I think I missed maybe 5 or 6 council meetings in 6 years, primarily due to either business obligations or problems with family back in the UK. But I'm very much of an understanding of what's involved in terms of being a council member. There is a significant commitment that's involved in attending council meetings and also in preparing for council meetings. So just by way of procedure, a council member gets a package at least 72 hours in advance of a council meeting, and that gives them an opportunity, typically over the weekend on a Monday, to prepare for the meeting. So I take that time to study the materials, understand them, ask any questions of city staff, and also of my constituents with respect to what's on the agenda, and then that prepares me for the meeting. So yes, I believe I'm fully prepared for the meeting. And in terms of my employment, I am self-employed. I'm a CPA. I do consulting work. I spend about between 35 and 45 hours a week working, so that's my primary commitment. Unfortunately, city council work doesn't pay very much at all. So I have to have a job, but yes, I take the time to put aside for council work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mrs. Krennick.
Thank you to Commercial State Bank, Fulshear Media Partners, and the Chamber for sponsoring this, and all the volunteers who stepped forward. I am currently serving as your councilwoman here in Fulshear, and I do have an appreciation for the time commitment it does take. My full-time job, I'm an attorney with Krennick Law Offices. We have a firm in Katy, and I do recognize that sounds like that would take a lot of time, but I prioritize and make time for what's important to me. And over these past 2 years, I've made time for the city of Fulshear. I am happy and I'm absolutely dedicated to reading the materials, preparing not only for the regular meetings, but special meetings, workshops, and any other events that the city's put on. And the reason I invest that time is because your council people should be accountable to you, and they can only be accountable to you if they put in the time necessary to not only research the materials, read it, reach out to constituents, do the follow through, and do all the due diligence that's required to make an educated vote. So I hope to continue that work for the citizens of Fulshear and continue making Fulshear a priority.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Miller, same question to you.
Where it comes down to time and availability, I'm not a 9-to-5 guy. I don't punch a clock. I make my own schedule, and I schedule it according to what's important. And if it's important, I make time for it. And one of the rules that I try to live by is if your priorities are straight, then your decisions are easy. And I assure you that if I were elected, all city business would definitely be a priority. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Murdoch, if you'll wrap it up for us on this question.
I just want to thank you for moderating and whistleblowing. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. This means a lot to the community, and being elected will mean a lot to me. This is not, I'm not running for a job. I'm not running to advance my apolitical career. I'm running to serve the community. And I love serving at the church. I love serving with the family. I love serving and serving the community and understanding what the individuals of this community want will be a priority for me. And doing the homework, doing the research, and working with individuals to bring together what the community wants is a passion that I'll hold dear to. But 8 to 5, Monday through Fridays, my schedule at work, work at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Me and my wife do. We're space planners. So we plan out and work with different elements with the buyers and the merchants. It's a fun job. I've been with Academy for 15 years, so I'm committed to it. I'm committed to Fulshear.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's move on to question 2, and Mr. Gill, we'll start with you this time. What volunteer activities or groups have you or are you currently involved with here in the community?
Thank you. Currently, I'm involved on Development Corp A, which is one of the city organizations that's responsible for controlling the sales tax that comes into the city and deciding how that's going to be spent. So that's one of the activities that I provide to the city. Another one is that I am the emergency management coordinator for the city of Fulshear and have been since 2010. So that, depending, the nature of an emergency is that it's unplanned, and so sometimes that particular obligation can be fairly easy, and sometimes it can be pretty tenuous. And last year we had some flooding in the Redbird area on Redbird Lane. Actually, it was under 10 feet of water, and we had about 100 residents who couldn't actually get to their place of work. So we had to figure out how to get them out of the area, and so it was my responsibility to talk to landowners and try and make an alternative route out to Redbird Lane. The first event lasted about 10 very long days, and the second event was about 5 days. So that was probably the most challenging task I've had as emergency management coordinator for the city, and I'm hoping that there won't be too many emergencies in the future, but I'm ready if there are. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Councilwoman Krennic, same question to you.
In addition to City Council, I like to volunteer in the community. I'm a member of the Brazos River Rotary Club, where we hold the mantra service above self as the utmost importance. I've volunteered with city efforts such as Keep Fulshear Beautiful, Celebrate Your Princess out in Cross Creek Ranch. I participate in BSF, which is Bible Study Fellowship International here at the Methodist Church on Thursdays. Professionally, I'm a member of the State Bar of Texas and the College of State Bars, which is a scholastic organization for lawyers. I am involved with the Republican Women's Club of Katy. I am active with the Republican Party here in Fort Bend County, and am proud to be serving as precinct chair for Precinct 3006. Volunteering. Family Hope is a big organization that I like to support. They do a food bank here the second Saturday of every month, and they have a lot of other initiatives. In fact, tonight they're having a human trafficking seminar that should be very informative to the community. I'm also a member of the chamber here in Fulshear, and I enjoy volunteering and participating with them.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mr. Miller.
I helped a herd and corral Cub Scouts. My 7-year-old son, he's a Cub Scout, and I'm very involved with them, our Cub Scout pack, and we have a big time with that. And we've been going to the Methodist church here in Fulshear, where they were kind enough. I also play guitar. I like to play music, and the Methodist church, they let me play guitar for the Easter sunrise service last year, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And recently I met the people at the Thrive Church over here, and they're going to let me sort of expand that and start a country gospel project. I love gospel music, I love country music, and they're going to let me perhaps combine those two things. So we haven't had a performance yet, but we're working on it, and we're having a big time doing it. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Murdoch.
I like to serve at the church. I serve on the camera, on the media team. I serve on the kids ministry, and me and my wife co-lead small group on Wednesday nights. She's my partner, and I love my wife. Thank you for being here and going through this with me. This is serving in organizations. In the past, I was with the College Republican group, Amarillo College, fought for water rights, which is a big initiative. Water is scarce in the Texas Panhandle and West Texas. Governor Perry was governor just for about a year or two, and we wanted to try to drill water below the escarpment, and we and didn't want to grab water out of the lake because it was running dry. The bill failed, and the lake went down to 22 feet, originally at 100 feet. But serving on the college at Amarillo College and Texas Tech was it was great. I wish I had more time to serve, but I don't. Working and family, and this is going to be a priority for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Ariel, if you'll wrap that question up for us. If you use the microphone, please.
I've been serving in several communities. I was a basketball coach for the local YMCA, and we just wrapped up our season last month, actually a couple of weeks ago. And so I really love to play basketball since very young. I have always been a basketball captain and all that, and now coaching kids has been real fun. I really enjoy it, and I hope to do it for a long time, every year, every season. Other is I have been president and vice president for the local homeowners association that I was prior to moving to Fulshear. And on the latest, I was the vice president, and I wanted somebody else to take over me, but there was no one to take over, so I had to continue going to the meetings and making all the decisions for the community on where the budget should go, how the trash should be collected, how the community should be taken care of and everything. So I've been very much involved with my prior community, and last week we were able to finally get a quorum and find a replacement for me. So I've been very fortunate to be involved with people in community very closely and knowing what their concerns are. So it's very much that experience has given me a lot of enthusiasm to work for this position here at the City Council election. Thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you. And now we're going to move on to a series of questions about the Home Rule Charter. There'll be 3 questions. The first one will just be generally, are you supportive of it or not? The second question will be about voting districts, and that's an important question, so we're going to give you 3 minutes to answer that. I will remind you of that when we get to that question. And then the last question will be about change after a 2-year period. So the first question, and Councilwoman Krennic, we'll start with you. The first question is, can you support the Home Rule Charter as it is currently written? Why or why not?
Yes, I do support the Home Rule Charter as it's presently written. The simple statement on why I support the Charter for the way it's written is because it gives power to the people. It empowers the people, and people should always be more powerful than their government. Our current form of government is general law. The Home Rule Charter will allow us to transition to Home Rule status. There are some key elements in Home Rule status in the Charter the way it's written. Most notably, it gives the people the power of initiative, referendum, and recall. Briefly, initiative is if voters want to bring an initiative to their council members or to council that they don't feel council is paying attention to, they can use a procedural mechanism, gathering signatures, bringing a petition, and bring that to the voters and to the council. Referendum, likewise, is a power of if the council is doing something that the citizens aren't necessarily wanting or not doing it in a way that they want, they can go through the procedural mechanisms and have that change effectuated directly. Recall is if you have an elected official who's acting outside the bounds. Voters can take the initiative or take the procedural mechanism of recall and recall them. There's a lot of benefits to the Home Rule Charter. 90 seconds is not sufficient to tell you all the details, but it gives power to the people, and that is where the power should always be.
Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, do you support the Home Rule Charter as it's written? Why or not?
Yeah. I think the Home Rule Charter is the next logical step. It's definitely something that Fulshear needs to do for all the reasons that Tricia so eloquently stated, and which begs the question: we should go ahead and do it, but there's opposition to it. And I think there's this other viewpoint that says, well, we definitely want a Home Rule Charter, but we don't want this Home Rule Charter. Well, why? I don't know. We've been trying to figure that out, and it's the time's not allotted, and I think where it boils down to those districts, and we'll get some more time to talk about that. But we definitely do need a charter, and I think eventually we will get one. Hopefully it's this one. What's the time am I running out? Okay. Anyway, there's so much more I want to say, but we got a 3-minute one coming up, so I'll save the time for that. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Murdoch.
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't decided. I know that doesn't answer the question yes or no, but I'm torn on it because this charter or a charter is needed. I feel that the manager-council government is the best option for the community. So there's just a few things in here that why I haven't said yes to. Section 3.03, the single member districts, which we'll kind of go into, the term limits, which we'll go into, but I feel that the annexation is something that this allows us to annex land more efficiently. This allows us to rule ourselves instead of mandating by the state to follow their rules. We can govern ourselves. So the power is to the people. There's probably about 93% of this document I agree with, and I'm just torn. So until I talk myself into it or out of it, then I'll let you guys know.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Ariel, what about you?
I have also been quite torn apart, just like Mr. Murdoch, but I eventually decided that I support the charter. I think we need the charter. We have spent already $60,000-$70,000 on the charter from our community money, and if we want to reinvent the wheel, then it's another $60,000-$70,000 going into it. I think that's too much burden for our citizens. So I think it is very good, and our city, which has already developed up more than 8,000 population, we definitely need the charter so that we can rule our regulations, and we are not regulated by a state. So we'll be home rule, we'll have all our regulations, we can take care of that. And it has been very necessary and essential for the city to get into this bandwagon. And there are oppositions to it, and there are supporters to it. And it is not a perfect document. It is a live document. So every 2 years, if whoever wins on this election will be able to mandate it, will be able to change it, will be able to rectify it as per the necessity of the citizens. So it is not something cast in stone that we cannot change. So that is something really, that's why I think we should support it, because we have already spent enough money. We have spent so much time. There has been 13 people spending 4-6 months of their time. So I think it's a lot of effort put into that. So I think we should respect that and take the charter to the next level and our city to the next level. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, Mr. Gill.
Yes, I support the Home Charter. I want to say thank you at this time. There's a number of the Home Charter Commission here this evening, and I think they did a fantastic job over a 6-month period giving up their time to figure out this charter. Tough job. I think they did a superb job with it. The reason I support the Home Rule Charter is because primarily it brings power to the city of Fulshear, away from the state of Texas. As a general law city, we are told what to do in the main by the state of Texas. If we move to Home Rule, we can decide as a people here in this city how we want to govern our city. It gives us tremendous powers, much more powers than we have as a general law city, annexation being one of them. As Tricia was saying, you know, we would have the ability, or you as the voters would have the ability to change ordinances. If you don't like an ordinance, then just by a petition and then by a referendum, you can decide to have that ordinance changed or removed from the book. Initiative means that if there's something that you don't think is getting done, needs to get done, again, by petition and then by bringing it to the people, you can have that ordinance passed. And if one of us here or some other council member is doing something wrong that you don't like, you've got recall. You can have that person removed. So I think that gives power to the people, and I think that's an important thing. So I'm a full supporter of Home Rule. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the second question in talking about the Home Rule Charter. And you will have 3 minutes to answer this question, so you have a little extra time on this one. Mr. Miller, we'll begin with you. Voting districts have been a topic of much discussion when it comes to the Home Rule Charter, as we all will know. What is your opinion of this section in the Home Rule Charter?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think it sounds like we all agree that Home Rule Charter is what we want and is the way to go. And like I said, and I've read the thing, and I've talked to a lot of you who created it, and reading through it, I mean, why wouldn't we do this? And then so you try to look for the counterpoint, the other side's point of view, and it seems to be where this districting situation takes hold. So the way I understand it, in my limited understanding, is so right now there's 5 of us here. We're running for 3 spots, and we're all running at large. There's 5 seats on the city council. If this charter passes, then what this charter does, it goes from 5 to 7. We draw up 5 districts, and then there'll be 2 at large. So then that brings the question. So then the districts will be drawn to be 1 representative from each district. And from what I understand, it seems to me that the people that are having a problem with it is they're like, well, it's unfair to certain groups. And you know, I'm new here. I don't understand the politics. To be honest with you, I didn't really pay much attention to the politics at all until I got involved in this thing. And now I'm learning a lot. And what I see is there's a division in this town. And I think it's kind of between what charter would best benefit Croc Creek Ranch, or what charter would best benefit Old Town Fulshear. And I know there's this issue, there's this language that is supposedly in the charter that is punitive to the master plan communities and where it comes to the at-large things. And reading through this thing, I read it, and like the way I read it, it's like, well, maybe it is and maybe it isn't. I can't really tell. And so I've enlisted help on the outside. I've got my work and with my due diligence firm that I do with the Texas Service Owners Association, and we work with lawyers out of that thing. I've got lawyer friends looking at this to try to help me make sense of it, because what makes sense to me is however the districts are drawn and however the at-large thing was voted, because it's what's the most important thing, does each and every person in Fulshear, Texas get fair and equitable and equal representation? That fundamentally, to me, is the most important thing. And so, to be honest with you, the language in the document is, I think it would be interpreted both ways. And kind of one way to look at it, the way it's kind of going, or like, well, that depends on what kind of council you're going to elect. And then I guess whatever council we elect on May 7th, and then those people will be sitting, and then those people will decide. So it's hard. Am I running out of time?
That's
Oh,
your
sorry.
time. Time's over. Well, thank you, though. All right, Mr. Murdoch.
I was trying to brace my ears. I didn't know how loud that was going to get. That's what the Supreme Court said, that every individual should be represented, and no matter if they are registered to vote or not registered to vote. My issue is that right now that we have Cross Creek, Bodark, Fulbrook, we have Old Town Fulshear. I'm running to serve at large every individual in this community. Now, in this charter divides the city, and there is a division right now because there's interest in this city because people live in a particular area that want different and a different outcome than what's given. But my issue is, if you divvy out the city with the size of this city, you're going to be constantly changing districts, and is that going to be feasible for our government? At large, I personally would rather have 7 people represent me than just 1 or 2. The next issue is we have 5 running. Is somebody willing and wanting to serve from each of those districts? Right now we have somebody from Bodarks and then 4 of us from Cross Creek Ranch. Cross Creek Ranch is great, but are we going to have, how's it going to be divvied out? That's a question that's going to be facing the next administration that is elected, that we're going to have to work through if this passes. I lived in Amarillo, Texas, and the members of the council there were all at large. Worked good there. That's why I liked it. I moved to Lubbock. They were districts. There were some districts that you could tell the division in the city, because some districts did not get services as well as other districts, depending on the fight that particular council member had. It works in some areas and it works in other areas. I'm curious to see how it will here, but I think the next challenge is, if elected, is to embrace the charter and to work with the lawyers and the engineers of whoever does the districting, and look at variables and move on that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, back over here.
So districting has been one of the issues that I really looked closely in this charter. And I think population minorities in the Old Town Fulshear, Bodark area, and Fulbrook, where there are barely any houses yet, those people are going to be in a disadvantage with this charter, I think. And because we have so many people in Cross Creek, with 80% of people, maybe, so districting is going to be a challenging issue, and that is why we should all sit on the table and everybody should focus on how the districting should be done so that everybody gets a fair share. And like master plan communities are not left apart, or they are not given, they should be given enough share, and also the area where there are not enough people. So I think the districting should be done more on a population basis, but making sure the areas that don't have enough population also get a representative there, and their voice are heard, and their concerns get to the city level. So I think it is up to the citizens to make sure who is their representative, who is going to represent their area, and vote for them so that they can get to the council and make sure when the districting is done, they agree on it. And the districting is done so that every part of the city is covered, everybody's voice is heard, and everybody's happy. So it is a balancing act, and that is why we are running for the council, so that we can do that. We talk to the residents, we hear from everybody, and we try to balance it, make sure everybody is it's fair for everyone. There will be, if there is somebody unhappy, then we have to listen to them and make sure why there is unhappiness on that area of town. So districting is going to be a challenging issue down the road, but we'll have to work on it. We'll have to find experts on it and make sure that it is done properly so that it is fair and it is sound. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Gill.
Thank you. Once again, I believe that the Home Charter Commission did a great job in terms of putting this together. One of the reasons that they increased the City Council from 5 council members to 7 was because of a growing population, so there are more council members to represent you, the citizens of Fulshear. With Home Rule Charter, the way it's written, there will be 5 districts and 2 at-large positions. Those districts, the Home Rule Charter didn't address how those districts are going to be divided up. That's not that's beyond, with respect to them, their capabilities, and certainly beyond the capabilities directly of a city council as well. That's going to need some demographic experts to look at the demographics of Fulshear. But briefly, whilst the Home Charter Commission was doing their work, there was a Supreme Court Commission judgment pending. That's now been decided, and so the districting will be on the basis of population. So it's purely going to be based on population, the numbers of people living in the city of Fulshear. Right now there's about 8,000 people living in the city of Fulshear. Divide that by 5 districts and you get about 1,600 people per district. So I guess there's about 6,000 to 7,000 people currently living in Cross Creek Ranch. That means that Cross Creek Ranch, and I'm not trying to prejudge anybody's work here or the decision of a future council, but it's most likely, just by pure statistics, that Cross Creek Ranch is going to have 4 out of the 5 districts. Then that leaves 2 at-large positions. Now, there's been some debate about what does at-large mean and whether there should be some sort of, direction as to where somebody can come from to run at large. The Home Charter doesn't specify that. It specifically says they are at large. I believe in plain English, at large to me means that those 2 candidates would represent all of the people of Fulshear and could live anywhere in Fulshear and be elected by all of the people in Fulshear. So they are genuine at-large positions. So it is quite possible that Cross Creek Ranch could have 6 out of those 7 seats. The 1 seat would be to represent the rest of Fulshear, and so that would be what's called Old Town, Bodark, Fulshear Creek Crossing, and that would be the situation currently. As the city grows, those districts would obviously change with population, because if there's more population, then the district is going to need looking at. So the point of districting is that if you are you're representing a district, you're representing 1,600 people. So you're accountable to those 1,600 people rather than 8,000. I think that brings more accountability to your council members. You have somebody you can specifically go to with your issues and to represent you. And the 2 at-large members will be effectively, I mean, I appreciate all council members would be looking after the interests of the city of Fulshear, but there is a certain amount of accountability by being responsible for a specific district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Councilwoman Koenig.
Districting is a hot-button issue. It's been highly debated in our town halls, on social media, and actually throughout the formation of the charter process. The commission brought up this topic several times, and it was interesting how they went about in addressing it. Districting is the purest form of representative government. It allows for a distinct segment to have one person to whom that elected official becomes accountable to. The charter says 5 districts, 2 at large. So I just want to take it and kind of break it down. If we assume the city of Fulshear has 8,000 people roughly, and we divide it by 5, that's 1,600 people per district. If we then further extrapolate, and there's about 6,800 people in the city, or in Cross Creek, just that development, that turns out to about 4 out of your 5 districts, 4.2 seats out of the 8,000, which comes to about 4 districts. So right there you have a majority. If your council expands to 7, a majority of your council members will come from Cross Creek. That is actually what you have today. 3 of your 5 members of council are from Cross Creek. The commission saw it important to expand the council because they knew that the city was growing. They wanted to give people more opportunity to have their voices heard. The commission said 5 districts allows those 1,600 people in each of those districts, once they're drawn by experts, based on population, purely based on population, as the Supreme Court just recently decided, they have a direct person at City Hall that they can go and be accountable to. More importantly, as an elected public servant, you have to go talk to those 1,600 people. You have a direct liaison. The charter does not use a master plan community restriction, as it's been sometimes talked about. It did address the 2 at-large, and that the council, if necessary, could put restrictions on that. And the reason they did that is that the Charter Commission recognized that we have to make sure everyone has an equal and undiluted voice in council. And in 2 election cycles, we have managed to eliminate our African American representation from the council. And we have historically, as a city, had an African American representative either on council or serving as mayor. The reason that condition was put in for possible restriction of to the 2 at-large positions is so that we could avoid a Department of Justice review, which would subject us to a consent decree. And a consent decree is when the federal government comes in and tells us how we're going to conduct our elections. We saw that happen recently in a neighboring city in Fort Bend County. The Charter Commission recognized that they did not want to run that risk and gave the power to the council to avoid that possible challenge from the Department of Justice.
Thank you very much for that insight. Really appreciate that. Okay, the last question on the home rule charter. We'll start with Mr. Murdoch. If the residents adopt the home rule charter, there would be an opportunity to change it after 2 years. Is there anything that you specifically would want to change?
Absolutely. I feel like that looking at the city in 2 years from now, we will be looking at a much different picture. We'll be looking at changing the upkeep on the districting, and I would like to see the elimination of the last line in section 3.03, which reads, by ordinance, establish additional qualifications for candidates or establish no more than 2 districts within each a candidate must reside, or both. And what that means is, if I live 2 doors down from a person that's also serving, the council could say no, and then I wouldn't be able to run because we're both willing to serve. We both want to serve this community, and this document allows as it uses as a vehicle to allow the council to decide against it. There's also the term limits. If somebody is willing to give up 6 years to 8 years to 12 years of their time, I'd like to see that modified. I know term limits are needed to retain power, but or to not have to prevent that from occurring. But there's not much in here else that I mean, whatever business comes up between now and then might also need to be modified. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, back over here. Use the microphone, please.
I think the charter has been created pretty well, and I think the districting, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm afraid that only the high amount of volume communities may take all the members. That's why I was thinking maybe we should make all at large. Maybe that's something I would be changing it in 2 years, but definitely we are going to see. We're going to talk to the citizens and see how they respond. So I think pretty much if we adopt the charter, we'll see how it pans out, and we'll be talking to residents and see how they are feeling. If we see that some residents are being biased, or if there is any kind of inconformity, then I think that's something we are going to see when the charter is implemented. And as a councilman, I'll be going and talking to people and making sure everybody is satisfied, or if not, then we'll work on amending that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Gill.
The charter was obviously created with today's conditions in mind, but it was created and formed as a living document. So who knows what's going to happen over the next 2 years? This is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States right now. So a lot can happen in 2 years. The most likely change I would see or predict would be with respect to the districts, because in 2 years, quite a lot of population growth could occur, and that might require some adjustment to the districting. But the document has been well written as a living document, so it has that opportunity to change if necessary in 2 years. So I'm not going to say that I can just exactly what those changes are going to be and what's going to be required, but the document is there to facilitate any change that's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
I too would look at, in 2 years' time, the districts, because we are rapidly growing. Our growth rate right now in the city of Fulshear is about 900%, and we're approaching quickly 1,000% growth rate. In 2 years, our picture could look very differently. The commission, the Charter Commission, recognized that, and that's why they drafted the language the way it is as it pertains to districting and the right to review it for 2 years. But the Charter Commission went even further and said, should the citizens or the council not want to change in 2 years, they said you have to review it at a minimum of every 5 years, because they recognize that this is a living document. Our picture and our outlook as a city is constantly changing. So in 2 years' time, yes, I think it is prudent for the council to look at the districts, to change those if necessary, and to be mindful that we don't want to have a dilution of anyone's voice or vote in our town, and to make those modifications if necessary. But I think the charter was written with a vision for not only today's picture, but 5, 10, 15, and even 30 years down the road.
Thank you. Mr. Miller.
Would I change anything? Well, that depends on this question that I've admitted I'm still trying to figure out. Is it the way the districting and the at-large, if we move that direction, is it truly fair and equitable to everyone? And if it's not, then let's change that. Let's get it right. If it is, then it's great like it is. I think it's a very well-written document. Everything they just said, it's you people who put it together. I could tell you did your homework, you did your jobs, you really put a lot of thought into it. So I like it. There's a lot to like about it. It's just, to me, it boils down to that one question: is it truly fair and equitable to everybody? If it's not, let's change that. If it is, let's keep it.
Okay. The next question has to do with parks. And Mr. Ariel, we'll start with you. The question is this: the city currently has few facilities for sports and rec. What actions would you take to provide more parks for our residents?
That has been so important, because I like to bike all the time. I like to run all the time. And there is a lot of running and biking areas in Cross Creek, but still, I'd like to see a healthy Fulshear. I'd like to see green Fulshear. That is one of my biggest agenda, and I think I would try my best to make sure that enough green areas are left when the new communities are built. I'd like to make sure that there are parks where the kids can go play and enjoy their time, and there are enough shade so that we are not covered with concrete and burning in the scorching summer heat. So it is very paramount for me that we have enough parks, recreation, and especially places where kids can play, because I have 2 kids my own, and they like to be outdoors, and it is very much important for me. And if I got elected, I'll make sure that I talk to the responsible parties to see how we can have parks in our area. If there's a developer coming in, we got to say, you are not going to be making money on building houses all the time. You got to make sure there are enough parks, green areas, and recreation areas, biking trails, hiking trails. Those should all be in the development agenda. I think that's how I'm going to approach. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Mr. Gill, the question about parks.
Yes, we need parks, and we need them soon. We've left it maybe a bit too long. There's a lot of development that's going on in the city of Fulshear. It's been on everybody's minds, but one of the issues obviously is money. So we need to find some land, we need to buy some land. Financing it can be an issue, and so we need to look for some smart ways to finance the acquisition of parkland as soon as possible in the city of Fulshear. So I would be a proponent of buying land, securing land as quickly as possible. I know the city has been working on that and facing some challenges, and there's more to do, and I'd like to be a part of that. I'm a CPA by profession, so I can figure out how to finance stuff, and that's certainly a priority for me. Some people have actually been generous. We recently had a donation of 10 acres of land to the city for parkland, which is a tremendous donation right now with the price of land in Fulshear. To donate 10 acres is a fantastic thing to do, and hopefully we can see more of that too. But yeah, I think we need to be smarter about looking for more from developers in terms of contributions to park space, because that is part of what makes our community great. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
We came to Fulshear because of the charm and the green space, and oftentimes we see that disappearing as more development comes this way. I'm committed to bringing parks, hike and bike trails, and we actually have things in the works to make parks more prevalent throughout the entire city. Presently, we have a parks fee that comes with our platting that I would maintain that dedicated fee and make sure that those fees got applied to land acquisition, which is desperately needed, so that we can maintain the green space and put in recreation centers. We are very blessed to have citizens who invest in this community. They put their roots here, and they did donate parkland to us. We have some of our park commissioners here, and they work very hard and not only bringing events, but procuring land, making space, green space, so that people can enjoy that in the city. On our major thoroughfare plan, we've talked about and will be implementing trails and interconnectivity so that people can bike from different areas of the city, whether it be the master plan communities to downtown or the farmers market, including the Texas Heritage Parkways, which will have pathways that will pass underneath the almost like a tunnel system so that people can ride their bikes and traverse. And so I look forward to working on those initiatives, working with the development that's coming in to make sure that we secure the parks that are necessary for our families and our children.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Miller.
I'm a little biased on this one. I went to Texas A&M and I studied recreation, park, and tourism sciences. So it's something that's very close to me. I love me some parks. I think we should have as many as we can. They pointed out hopefully we could have all the parks we wanted, but we're limited by the money and the amount we can raise, and that's some of the issue. But I think we need sports fields, we need green space, we need places where the kids can run around and play. I think we had sports fields where some kids from Old Town Fulshear and some kids from Cross Creek Ranch and everybody get together and watch our kids play sports. I think that could go a long way to relieving some of this tension that I'm feeling in this community. So they're real good things, but we have to acquire this land. We have to pay for it. We have to build it. And I've got some friends at the National Park Service. I've got friends at Texas Wildlife Department, and a bunch of people that are in municipalities as small as Fulshear or even larger places. And I've already kind of talked to them and kind of get the ball rolling on people that have already faced these challenges and had succeeded in them. So I think we all agree we need more parks. Hopefully we can pull it off.
Okay. Mr. Murdoch, parks to you.
All right, this is a fun topic. I like this one. Parks is something that we all agree that we need. So let's do it. Let's get parks. Let's figure out a way to get parks here. I've been going door to door talking to parents, and their biggest issue is having to drive to North Katy or driving to East Katy, 30, 45, maybe an hour trek, just to get to a park to play baseball, soccer. It was fun at Cross Creek Ranch when I was coming over here. There's a field by the entrance where there was a lot of residents, or I don't know if they're residents, but people over there playing soccer with their kids. Our community is a lifestyle community, and parks embrace that. And parks bring people together, and that's what our community needs. We don't need division. We need a park to bring us together, to have events at the events held by the Chamber of Commerce. This is a great example on St. Patty's Day. Let's have a park to bring in a parade. Have an open space area for that, for booths, vendor booths. Let's have a place where a kid can be a kid again. And it's just fun to bring everyone together and have fun. That's what life's all about, right?
Well done, all of you. Thank you. All right. Well, if we're going to have parks, we got to have some water. So let's talk about water for a second. Mr. Gill, we'll start with you. Various issues have been raised about the water quality as well as billing issues. So, as a city council member, do you have any ideas on improvement?
Yeah, the city has been addressing some of the water issues just of late. So we now have an expanded water tower, which gives more storage and water pressure to the system. A water plant, a second water plant has been commissioned in the Cross Creek Ranch area, and so that gives more capacity to that system. Along with that development comes some issues. I was speaking to Severn Trent yesterday about some of the issues with the water quality in Cross Creek Ranch. I understand there's been some instances of brown water, which nobody particularly cares for. And the explanation I received was that with the change in the two plants, with the interconnection of the two plants, that causes change in flow rates, and that stirs up items that are normally in solution and at the bottom of pipelines or whatever in the water system. So I'm assured by Severn Trent that that is a temporary situation. I believe that's getting better. I need to find out more about that. But at the end of the day, the operator needs to be doing their job correctly. So yes, with the new installation, there may be some issues along with that, which can be explained through engineering and hopefully will improve. But if it's a continuing issue, then I think we need to address the operator and take them to task over their responsibility to provide clean, drinkable water. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Councilwoman Krennic.
I'll echo a little bit of what some of the things Mr. Gill said. We have heard complaints from the Cross Creek Ranch area on a little bit of brown water, and as we bring those other plants online and join those two, we hope that those issues will be settled. And again, ultimately, the operator they've worked with us, they're very responsive with us, and when they don't fulfill the task, which the city should be able to deliver good solid, clear, drinkable water out of your tap, then we need to address that with the operator. One of the things the current council has done is approve the AMR system for the water meters. A lot of customers felt, and a lot of citizens felt like they didn't have transparency into the billing system, and they didn't have accountability with anyone when it came to water issues and water billing. The AMR is automated meter reading. The meters will be changed out in a phased-in project with Siemens. They will come in, install the meters, and in addition to installing these meters, these will give signal read as opposed to meter reads, which we've had issues with in the past. That meter read will not only be generated digitally to a system and uploaded, it will also allow customers to have the web portal. So it gives them essentially not virtual real-time, but almost real-time access to their water. And I think these two things, as we move forward and implement this plan, the citizens of Fulshear will be very happy with the progress we're making on water and billing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller.
I come from a place where water is scarce. It's Llano County, out in the western part of the hill country. And even in good years, we have to worry about the water. And these last 10 years, we've had a drought. And the city of Llano, they get their water, the Llano River runs right through the middle, and there's a bridge, you have to cross it. And they take the water comes right out of the river into a treatment plant, and we've got this river that goes right through the middle of our town. How could we ever had a problem? Well, we did have a problem. We got the drought, and the river got lower, and it got lower, and it got lower. And then it got to be a problem where people in Llano and the people running the town were like, we are not going to have enough water for the town. So the point is that they got themselves into a situation where they didn't prepare for contingencies, and they got themselves and their town in trouble. So where that comes to Fulshear, we don't have the drought problems that they have out there, but we need to hire good people, let them do their job, so that we have good water moving forward, and hold them accountable and make them do their job and prepare for it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Murdoch.
I was just thinking about parks. We need a municipal golf course, too, to put some of that water in. No, just kidding. That's funny. But we're supposed to have 90,000 people, 90,000 residents in the city of Fulshear, in a few years, are we equipped to making that happen with the water facilities that we have? And my question is how do we get there? I don't have the answer to that, but I'm willing to learn. There's always droughts. There's always going to be that. There's always going to be wet years. But at the end of the day, we need to come up with a solution to figure out how we're going to hold 90,000 people and give them that service, and how can we get to that point rather quickly before the city overgrows us and we can't provide for them. Thank you.
Okay. Wrapping up the question about water.
I think in our city there are separate water divisions. Like in Bodark area, there are people are drinking water from the well, and they seem to be pretty happy with that. And in Cross Creek Ranch, we have huge towers, and we have 2 more towers coming up to supply water. And I think that's what a master plan community is going to get. And I think in our city, the water has been distributed evenly. And I have not really heard anyone saying we have not got water. So that is a good thing. And there has been some talks about getting brown water, and that is the 7 trend that has been addressed. And I think they are working on fixing that issues once in a while. And the good thing is water has been a high priority. New construction projects have been going on, and our current council has been very concerned about water for the city. So I'm pretty positive, and I'm optimistic that our city has enough water, and it will have very good water for the citizens. But there has been some issues that I've heard from residents is the water bill is too high. So I think the council has already got this input. That's why now they are implementing the new meter rating techniques so that it kind of helps. But that is the only concern I have heard about water, the price being a little too high. But hopefully that will be taken care of, and we'll all have fresh water to drink. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for everybody's input on water. And now we'll move to economic development. Councilwoman Krennick, the question is to you. Economic development in Fulshear is essential to driving down permit fees and city taxes on residents. So how will you accelerate economic development?
I'm so glad we have this question. Economic development is our next front. It has to be the next leg that our budget stands on to make this city thrive and sustain ourselves going forward. Through our efforts, through our current mayor, he has reached out and attended the International Council on Shopping Centers. He has made important contacts as well as our city administration to bring in sustainable development. As a council member, we need to make rules and set our framework that we can attract sustainable business. And that's the council's responsibility, setting our ordinances, setting our architectural designs. And once we set those and we establish the playing rules, there are lots of retailers and commercial and economic interests looking at the city of Fulshear. And the reason they're looking at the city of Fulshear is because we have the rooftops to support it. And if we don't capitalize on these relationships coming forward, then we are doomed to cause the taxes on residents, on their property taxes or their city taxes to go up. We have to have money to sustain the city. We have made some strides in economic development. We did reach over $1 million of sales tax revenue. We have some strategic partnerships agreements coming online with commercial developments in our ETJ, which is our extraterritorial district. Rooms to Go is the one I'm referencing there, that we're hopeful to vote on in the near future. And more defining our framework will allow us to thrive in the economic field.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Miller, what would you do to accelerate economic development?
Well, I just told you the story, or a story about my hometown in Llano. And just about a half hour to the south of us is another little town called Fredericksburg. And back when I was a young boy, and I had a front row seat to this, Llano and Fredericksburg were 2 very small, kind of just predominant German communities. And one thing Fredericksburg did that Llano never did is they embraced tourism. They They held festivals. Is Don McCoy still in here? Like the great things you're always doing downtown, man. Those are so cool. And so they embraced their tourism industry. They brought in visitors. Meanwhile, Lano says, we don't want those people here. And we've got this greatest resource right here in Fulshear, this beautiful area. I think if we tell people about this and bring people to do, then the people will come, the businesses will be built, our sales tax revenue will increase, and I think we'll really watch it. And I think the other communities around us will see, just like Llano kind of remain stagnated, and Fredericksburg, meanwhile, has one of the largest per capita millionaires in the state. And I think Fulshear has incredible potential. It's one of the reasons we moved here. It's beautiful. The people are great. We need to have events to make people come here and visit Fulshear.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Murdoch.
I agree with that. This is something we're all passionate about. We need businesses here now. We're getting an HEB, but driving a Kroger or another HEB, it's daunting. I love when my wife goes, but we need places like Zoe's, or there's a lot of establishments at La Centera that we could have here because we can embrace it. The people want it. It's time for us to tell them that we want them to come here. The permitting costs are high. I was talking to a business owner the other day, and he told me that he said that he is telling his business friends not to come to Fulshear because he paid over $15,000 in permits. I don't know anything about the permitting process, but it seems like that's a lot. And if I'm a business, I think I'm going to go across the street. And I'm scared that some of them aren't doing that. And I want Fulshear to be a great place for people to come, shop, stay, live, and shop. We need more places to eat. We need a Salado. We need even a Chili's. We're here. Let's advertise that we want them, and let's go get them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I think economic development is very, very important. We have been building a ton of houses in our communities. We see Fullbrook, we see Cross Creek Ranch expanding, and we have seen a lot of houses, but very few businesses that are coming along with them. I have been very much kind of a victim of taking my kid to swim all the way to 99. The YMCA is at 99, going to grocery at Kroger. I'm spending all my money out of my city and staying in Fulshear. I wish I could spend the money on Fulshear, and our tax revenue grows, and we can make our parks and all the recreation areas, the bike trails and all that. So I think it is very important that we bring more business, more economic development to the city. We need the HEB that has been proposed. We need it very, very soon. So but I think if we get elected, I'm definitely going to talk about how we can expedite that process. And we need more restaurants, and so that we don't have to go out to other parts of the area to eat. So we need good recreation area for the kids. We need another YMCA in there. So I think if I get elected, I'll be talking to the YMCA personnel there so that we can get one of those here. So that is going to be my very important agenda, that we need more things here so that we don't have to drive to 99 or out to Houston and spend all our money, waste our time. And so it's a lot of waste of the citizens. If we have everything in Fulshear, then we'd be saving time, and we'll be enjoying all the amenities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just in the nick of time. The whistle was about to go. All right, here we go. Mr. Gill, economic development, what would you do?
Yeah, I think we all agree that we need more retail here in the city of Fulshear. And, it's typical of development that the rooftops come first and then the retail follows. So the rooftops are definitely here. It's time for the retail to follow. I believe it's coming. HEB can't come fast enough as far as I'm concerned. But what would I do? It's the role of City Council to create the right environment for businesses to want to move to Fulshear, and to make sure that we have an economic development director who is trained and has the ability to attract those businesses. I had the pleasure of serving on the search committee to find an economic development director to replace Cheryl Stalinsky, who did some great work over the years in terms of developing relationships with retailers. And we found somebody in Angie Fritz. If you get the chance to meet her, she's a wonderful person. She came from the city of Rosenberg. Great talent, great experience. And she is going to be a wonderful person, a wonderful asset to the city in terms of furthering those relationships and getting the retail here. So it's coming. I would also encourage commercial development further north in our ETJ towards I-10 where Rooms to Go is. The zoning ordinances plan for that to be a commercial district away from the residential districts, and that would give us further sales tax base to reduce the burden on residents. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, let's move to city financing. Mr. Miller, this question will be to you first. Given the Johnson Development Agreement for Cross Creek Ranch, do you have any views on how to secure financing for future city municipal projects?
Yeah, I think it dovetails into what I was saying earlier. I think if we make Fulshear a great place to be, Fulshear a great place to live, a place people want to live, then I think getting that financing will be easy. And I know I've heard a whole lot of stories about the deal that got done with Johnson, and I wasn't here. I don't know what to believe. It was shady, wasn't it? I don't know, but I think we should bring in the seek financing, and I think if we make Fulshear a great place to live, a great place to visit, then people will want to come, and we'll get those rooftops, and we'll get those businesses, and we'll be able to secure financing to build it. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Murdoch.
To be honest with you, it's going to be tough to maneuver through the environment, but in my opinion, I feel that we need to look and research for tools in the shed that Texas has provided for municipalities to develop their economy. From what I understand, I think that Highland Homes reached an agreement with a 380 agreement, and back in 2015, I know that's being used. There's that downtown agreement trying to bring in retail development into the downtown area. There's possibilities on trying to get sales tax revenue. I think that we ought to piggyback off of, unfortunately Katie got it, but piggyback off of Buc-ee's and let's develop throughout I-10. Let's put in some quality retail establishments that people will come out to Fulshear to get. That way we can earn more revenue through sales tax.
Perfect. Okay. Mr. Ariel?
I think bringing more economic development, just like we talked earlier, is the biggest source for our city to secure more finances. And I see that our city is pretty good in financial terms. It has always had surplus of money going to the year forward. And we have not really been delinquent on any of our payables. So we are doing very good. And if we can plan ahead for our development and municipal developments, then I think there are plenty of sources for us to get the money, including tax revenues, bringing more business, and maybe building if we can construct a road going from Fulshear to I-10, that's going to be a lot of traffic coming this way. And if we have some gas stations, I mean, there is a lot of economic development that we can do, which is going to bring a lot of people in here so that we can get the tax revenues and develop our municipal projects.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Gill.
Subject that I like to talk about is CPA money. I'd be grateful if you'd repeat the question.
Yes, the question is this. Do you have any views on how to secure financing for future city municipal projects?
Okay, so this is an honest question. It deserves an honest answer. So let's get the issue out on the table. There was a reference to the subdivision agreements. There were some agreements that were entered into back in 2007, 2008. And what those agreements said was that any tax revenues above 10 cents in every of revenue to the city would go to certain developments. What that does is it limits the city's ability to raise finance through bond issuance. And the normal way that cities raise capital is to issue bonds. So Fulshear is severely restricted in terms of its ability to raise capital in that way. So we're going to have to be a bit more inventive in terms of the way that we raise finance. And that's a passion of mine. So we're going to have to figure out some inventive ways and initiatives to raise capital for our future growth. Some of those, there are vehicles within the legislation that we can use. An example might be special purpose districts where, you know, a commercial area decides to tax itself to create the infrastructure within that district. We all want fine infrastructure here in the city of Fulshear. It's a beautiful city. We want to see quality developments. That's a vehicle to achieve that end. Thank you.
Okay, great. Councilwoman Krennic, what would you do?
The agreements referenced were incentives to get Fulshear on the map of where it is today. And in order to fund infrastructure, we've actually started capitalizing on our relationships that we're building with the county. One example is the Fulshear, or the Texas Heritage Parkway, which I affectionately like to refer to as the Fulshear Parkway. We are about to, as the City Council, we're about to vote on a project that allows us to work with them to raise the capital and pay them back. We currently don't have debt as in the city of Fulshear, so we don't have and we don't have the ability to issue bonds presently. But there are a lot of relationships that we're developing around us that allow us to fund our infrastructures. Like Mr. Gill referenced, special purpose districts, if that becomes necessary for a certain infrastructure project or need, then we can enter into those kind of agreements to fund that development to make sure that the city is consistently moving forward. Likewise, we have great relationships with our developers in this community, and they've done a lot to incentivize not only infrastructure, but say, hey, we can do this in a lease, a partial, like almost an installment contract to purchase things, so that we're not having to extend ourselves or miss out on opportunities because we can't get bonds. And so those relationships that have been established under the vision of our current council and current mayor, I think will serve us greatly going forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to move to talk about ordinances for a second. Mr. Murdoch, this question will be to you first. Currently, there's a committee working on a tree ordinance for the city that will likely come to the council during the term if you are elected. So do you think this ordinance should apply to individual homeowners or only to developers?
No, if you're going to do an ordinance, then it needs to reflect the city as a whole. I feel like that there are ways to maneuver homes in a development to keep large and older trees. I feel like they do it out in Conroe, they do it in the Woodlands to keep the forestry look. I feel like that's huge south of 1093. There's beautiful trees. It's beautiful down there. It's an oasis. I think you said it one day. Let's keep that, and let's develop around what God's created for us. This is our backyard. Let's keep it beautiful.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ariel, what would you say?
In my opinion, trees are very important resources of this planet, and we should protect them as far as possible. And I think the ordinance should affect individual homeowners and also the developers, I think. The developers will probably agree with what our ordinance say and put like 3 trees on every home, and the homeowners, if they are not impacted, then they will eventually, oh, I don't like this tree, and cut it out, you know. So I think it should be even, and the developers as well as homeowners should be responsible to keep the trees strong, to keep the trees live and shaded. And I think for the developers especially, because when we see development going on around our community, they totally make it flat, barren. It's like a desert. So actually I was taking my son out to one of the developments. He was like, oh, this is a desert, it is awesome. But that's not how we'd like our new developments to be. We'd like the old trees to stay there. I could see that there was trees, a lot of trees in that backyard, on my backyard. But now all the trees are gone. I guess the developer are going to put some new trees, but we have to give them some incentive or put it on the ordinance that those old trees needs to stay. They have a lot of history. Some people may have climbed that tree and they remember it for the rest of their life. Those trees have memories. So we need to keep those trees. Those are going to give shade to the community. They are very important. So I support the trees. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gill.
I love trees too. Who doesn't love trees? My wife and I, when we bought our land in Fulshear, it's not a lot of land, it's 3 acres, but we started with four trees on the land. I think we've now probably got close to 20 fairly significant trees that have grown up. I know my neighbors feel the same way, and I believe that people generally are good stewards of their property and their trees specifically. So I'm a great believer in not creating ordinances to restrict people's civil liberties, and the ordinance that was put forward before council some months back would have done just that, would have restricted people's civil liberties. I mean, just even going to Deckers and trying to park under a tree, that would have been a violation of the ordinance. There were numerous issues with the ordinance that I had personally, and I know that a number of other residents did, or citizens did, and so that was actually removed from City Council's consideration. I know that they're looking at a tree ordinance. I don't believe a tree ordinance is necessary. I believe people are good stewards of their property. Cross Creek Ranch has been an amazing developer. When I first came to Fulshear, it was just open rice land. There are now more than 5,000, I can't remember the number, it's an amazing amount of trees, 50,000 I think trees in Cross Creek Ranch. They've done an amazing job. So personally, I don't think it's necessary to have a tree ordinance. I think it may be appropriate to have restrictions on future developers in future development agreements. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman McCormick.
I too am a fan of trees. In fact, trees are part of our character in Fulshear. But I'm also a fan of not over-regulating and not stepping on personal property rights. There have been several versions of the tree ordinance that came out. One of the first versions that came out did exactly that. It trampled on personal property rights. I, like Mr. Gill, think that people are a good steward, generally, of their trees. They add character, they have benefits to their home, they have benefits to the environment, and they just define who and what Fulshear is. The current tree ordinance committee that is meeting together, they're looking at a whole different variety. They're taking it, they have an urban forester on their team. They're listening to them. I do like the canopy effect, and I've been to some of their meetings. I think that that's a good approach. I don't necessarily know what the ordinance is going to look like. I can also attest to the fact that we have quality developers that we are attracting to this city. So much so that we don't even have a tree ordinance. And in the recent Polo Ranch that will be coming online soon, the developer stepped up and said, we want to protect trees. We want to keep the charm and character of this community. And they voluntarily agreed to a tree site plan that I think will be beneficial to our extraterritorial jurisdiction. So I'm interested to see what comes out of the committee. I'm very careful not to violate personal property rights and not over-regulate for the sake of over-regulating.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, Mr. Miller, wrap up the trees.
I believe that farmers and ranchers are the original environmentalists. And by that I mean it's the people who own the land, who live on the land. They're the ones with the highest incentive to be very good stewards of that land. And I very much believe in private property rights, and that if you just let people take care of their own land, they will ultimately do what's best for that land. And if they don't, well then, I hate to see it, but that's up to them too. So yeah, I wouldn't be for this ordinance at all.
All right, now we'll have just some general questions. Mr. Ariel, we will begin with you. The first one is this. How many city council meetings have you been to, and what were some of your key takeaways?
Actually, I have been to one actual council meeting and other smaller meetings involved by the council. And my takeaway is the council members are very much listening to the constituents. I think they have been representing the people of Fulshear very well, and they have been discussing issues so that the residents are always in favor, and they are not always in favor of the big developers. We need the developers, but still, it is the residents who make a city a city. So I have seen that the council members have been very much listening to the residents, and that's how it should be. And well, that's my takeaway from the meetings. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Gill.
I've been to, I guess, over 100 city council meetings, either as a city councillor or more recently as a member of the public. And I don't know how many special meetings of city council, can't remember. But takeaway, generally, I would say that city council conducts itself in a professional manner, in the best interest of the community, looking forward to advance this community to be everything it can be. I think that the city has gone through a tremendous amount of growth over the last 7 or 8 years, and I think that the city council has done a fantastic job of dealing with that growth and some of the issues that arise. And inevitably, with a growing community, there's going to be tension in the community, and we've seen some of that lately, and I think City Council has done a great job in terms of trying to deal with that tension. There's more to be done because there's a lot more growth coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councilwoman McCrinick.
I don't know the exact number of council meetings I've attended. I've attended all but one special meeting, and I was absent for one special meeting because I was called away for work unexpectedly. But even prior to being elected to represent you on City Council, I took the time to go down and get involved because this town is important to me. My family's here, and if I'm going to make a commitment, I wanted to know what I was getting involved in. So I went to a handful of meetings before ever deciding to run for the City Council. My takeaway from it is, yes, this city, with no doubt, is experiencing tremendous growth. I have the pleasure to be able to pick the brain of some of our former city council members that are even here with us tonight, and they've shared with me. And my takeaway is that we have to learn from our past, work together as a team to keep guiding our growth going forward.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Miller.
I've never been to one, but I sure have seen a lot of videos on Facebook. And, what was it said that a passionate and vigorous debate in the public square is essential to a functioning democracy. And so I think that's great that so many people care and watching it, and everybody seems to be very involved. Everybody seems to really, really care, and I think that's ultimately what's going to benefit Fulshear. I mean, everybody's got their point of view, but I think everybody really, really cares about getting this town through its growing pains, and I see that happening, and it's a neat thing. And my takeaway is I'm watching it, and I get excited about it. It's like I want to be a part of this. I want to help. I want to participate. So if there's any takeaway, that it's really, really neat what y'all have going on here, and I'd like very much to be a part of it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Murdoch.
Yeah, I've been to two. They were. I was able to see a room full of passion, people that love Fulshear, and I just want to thank the council now and the mayor now for the service that they're doing. Everybody loves this city, and the tension happens when we're passionate about different avenues on the way it should be. So let's drive down that tension. Let's work together. Let's strive for some results with great solutions for the people of this community. And that's, at the end of the day, what we're here for. That's, at the end of the day, that's what City Hall's for, is to represent you and to represent the best what the city can provide. I feel like God's working in there. I feel like He's moving our town somewhere great. And if you haven't ever been, it's an experience that you'll see some passionate people in there with a lot of love for their community, and that's what I saw.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Gill, we'll begin with you. This is your general question. Fulshear benefits from a strong city council. So how will you work with other members when you have a different viewpoint?
Okay, I'm a great believer in trying to achieve consensus. That's how we get on in life. That's how we act in a normal society. So my experience through my life has been working as a CPA in like various companies at CFO level and CEO level, and trying to find consensus, because when you're managing people and everybody has a different point of view, then you have to come to consensus or things aren't going to get done. So it's important to understand what people's issues are, talk them through, come to some solutions, choose a solution and move on. So I would use my experience and bring it to bear to try and find consensus amongst my fellow members of City Council. I think I've been successful in that over the past 6 years. In fact, I've really enjoyed the experience of working with a great team. Some of our achievements have been the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance, which are still standing the city in good stead today. There were some issues in terms of arriving at those documents, but we achieved consensus. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
I would bring my training as a mediator to the table, and I think that I do that. In mediation, we look for different grounds. People usually start on opposite sides of an issue, and we have to come to some middle ground, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the decision we make, whether our viewpoints are different, we are bound by the majority, and we are better as a group working together than our individual parts. And even if there are different viewpoints, you hear them out, you understand them, you ask questions, you fully develop the issues, you question and you dig deep. And once you have an appreciation for the other side, there is usually a middle ground that can be had. And so I would continue to do finding that middle ground to come up with the best solutions for the residents.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Miller.
By keeping my mouth shut and my ears open, and trying to benefit from the wisdom of the people who know more than I do, who have more experience than I do. You know, we've got a couple good examples right here, and I think people mostly just want to be heard. And when there are both sides of an issue, the only way to truly understand it is to try to put yourselves in that person's shoes, and to see both sides of the issue and try to bring everybody around. So I think if you do more listening than talking, and then eventually both sides start to see the other person's point of view, and you basically come around to the center and build that consensus that you so greatly said. And I think there are many ways to get there, but that's the approach I'd use.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, Mr. Murdoch.
I face this a lot at work. A lot of people have different ideas, understanding the personalities, understanding where they're coming from, and understanding what they're passionate about, and expressing your passion and expressing the passion of the citizens and what the citizens want, and taking that understanding and throwing it out there and trying to come up with a compromise, but a compromise that won't hurt the citizens of our town. And a lot of times, I think that's what's wrong with Washington, D.C., is that they're too busy compromising because they can't agree on anything. And we don't need that gridlock here. We can do so much for the community if we all just, put down our disagreements and better understand each other and better understand each other's needs. Like I'm trying to do with the charter, is to ask the questions, to research, and to do my homework. I feel like once you do that, you can kind of understand where the other person's coming from, and then go from there, and then start working out some details on how an ordinance should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So differences are something that we will see definitely in the city council. Like if we will get elected, then we'll have differences on the tree ordinance for sure. So what I would do in that case is I'll definitely go and seek an expert advice, so that we'll get an expert opinion on what is right and what is not. And the other thing is to go to the citizens, because we are working for them. So I may not be the best guy to decide. So I'll go and talk to the citizens and see what everybody feels about our great city. So I think most important is getting some advice and talking to the citizens. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. The next general question, we'll start with you, Councilwoman Krennic. If elected, how will you bridge the perceived gap between Cross Creek Ranch and the rest of Fulshear?
I would actually, if I'm allowed to continue my service, I actually think that there is not a big gap between Old Town, Bodark, and Cross Creek Ranch, or the Cross Creek Ranch versus them division. Cross Creek Ranch has brought a lot of benefits to this city, and if you talk to the people who have put their roots here, who have been here for 10, 20, 30, 40 or more years, you will hear them say a lot of benefit has come from Cross Creek Ranch. One of my goals, if reelected to City Council, is to continue to represent all people. It doesn't matter where you live in the city. Your job as a public servant is to serve the good of all residents, and I would continue doing that. I would continue reaching out to residents. I would continue listening to the different points of view. And we are a beautiful blend of the old and the new. And if we set the right framework and have the right frame of mind coming to the table to have those discussions, I think that we'll continue to prosper, and it won't be an us versus them mentality.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller.
How would I bridge that gap? Well, kind of like I just said, by listening to all points of view, and putting myself in their shoes and putting them in my shoes, and maybe we can get some of these people on each side of this perceived gap to start listening to each other, because I think ultimately we all want the same thing. Everybody's looking out for their own interests, but I think once we begin a dialogue that we're all in the same train, we're all going the same direction, and if we're all in the same boat, and I think if everybody is rowing in the same direction, then we're going to get where we're going to be. I don't think it's that hard. I really don't.
Okay, Mr. Murdoch, what would you do?
Well, I like their point of view. I feel like that I live in Cross Creek Ranch, and I didn't know there was a division. I thought it was 1093. There's people in Bodark and Old Town Fulshear that have great ideas. There's people in Cross Creek Ranch that have great ideas. We're all people. We all live in the same town. Let's embrace it. And what are you passionate about is what I would ask. What do you want for our city? What ideas do you have that you want me to run with? Because at the end of the day, I'm serving you. And this is our community. This isn't Cross Creek Ranch Village. This isn't Bodark City. This isn't Old Town Fulshear. This is Fulshear. And we all live together. Let's make it great.
Okay, Mr. Ariel?
So in my opinion, the division is pretty much on Facebook, I talk to many people on Bodark. I talk to many people on Old Time, and they are so good. Hey, I live in Cross Creek, and they are so good to me, and I'm so good to them. I always embrace them. I always go biking around Bodark, and everybody waves at me, I go to Old Town, everybody waves at me. So it is only on Facebook. I think there is no division, but it's all about talking, making friends, and if there is any division, if we have any concerns, then we should talk to her. We are adults, and we have solved many conflicts. We have raised so many kids. You know how difficult. I have some conflict with my son because this morning he didn't eat breakfast. That's the same thing. So I think we have other bigger communities coming. There is Fulshear Run, there is Fallbrook. We have other big communities coming. So the Old Town and those folks are not going to be envious of the big communities. They have embraced it, and Cross Creek Ranch people, they don't even know anything, just like Mr. Modark was saying. I had no idea there was a division, and when I go into Facebook, there's like a bunch of talking, I think it's just Facebook thing, and there is nothing in person, and I think we should live that way, and we should love each other. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Gill.
Thank you. I live in Fulshear. I live in the Bodark part of Fulshear. I have friends who live in Old Town. They live in Fulshear. I have friends in Fulshear Creek Crossing. They live in Fulshear. I have friends in Cross Creek Ranch. They live in Fulshear. This is a city, and I don't believe, I agree with you, I don't believe that there is a division in this city. I've been doing a lot of block walking. That's part of what you do if you're trying to get elected, so you knock on people's doors. So I've been going door to door in Cross Creek Ranch and meeting people, talking to them, and I have no evidence of a division. Just about everybody that I've met has been extremely pleasant. In fact, I can't think of one exception. So I don't really get that there's a division. I think the word perceived in the question is absolutely right. It's perceived. And I think BJ's exactly right. There are a few people who like to, do what they do on Facebook, and I don't think that's the reality of the situation. I think most people are very happy to live in Fulshear, and I regard them as my neighbors, and I hope they see me in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Okay, next, Mr. Miller, we'll go to you to begin this question. What is your view on commissions and committees? Specifically, should city council members be allowed to be active voting members on city commissions or committees, or should they be present as liaisons only?
Yeah, well, I guess the danger there is it gets kind of incestuous, doesn't it? It gives one group of people too many power. If you've got a sitting city council, and then they have all those powers to vote and make decisions, and then they're also sitting on the committees, then they can influence, and how much influence do you want to give one person? It's like back when media was regulated. Well, we don't want one entity owning too many newspapers or too many television stations, because that gives one entity too much power over the masses. So I can see the logic to that. I mean, I think if we trust the people to be benevolent in their decisions and make their decisions for the right reasons, then it's not a problem. But if we're not trusting each other and creates a problem with this one or that one, so I think maybe in the efforts of transparency, not putting personalities into it, perhaps as a rule, it would make sense to just have to start dividing up those responsibilities so that so much responsibility is not left in one person's hands.
Okay, Mr. Murdoch, what would you say?
I mean, if somebody wants to serve in a capacity that they want to be on the zoning commission, I mean, I kind of like the idea of zoning. It interests me. And if elected, I don't see an issue in it. But I think there are residents that do see an issue in someone serving because they're recommending their own idea. And when you start looking at it that way, then you're just like, well, I think we've got a larger population to where we have more gifted people that could hold some of those spots. Whereas before, I don't think I think the population was smaller and there had to be some overlay. I feel like that the council can outreach into the public and get those gifted people and ask them to serve the community, or if you know a gifted individual, ask them to serve at that capacity. But I feel like there's a lot of ideas out there that are untapped that I feel like the city could touch on.
Okay, Mr. Ariel?
Would you please repeat the question one more time?
Yes. What's your view on commissions and committees? Specifically, should city council members be allowed to be active voting members on city commissions and committees, or should they be present as liaisons only?
That's quite interesting. I believe that the commissions are very important for the city, and the council members vote. I guess they can be overseeing the meetings, and I think we should leave it independent to that particular committee. If they want to involve the councilmen to vote, I think we should pretty much leave it independent to that committee, make it kind of autonomous, so that they are allowed to make their own decision as to who is going to vote, who is not going to vote. I pretty much leave it to the committee, because the committee is going to be making so many decisions, and why not make one more decision about who is going to vote for that committee? I'll leave it up to them. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Gill, what would you say?
I'd say that commissions and committees are staffed by people who do it out of their own time. They don't get paid for it, they volunteer for it. So it really is a question of how many volunteers you have. Now, as the city grew up, a few years back, there were very few people who were willing to volunteer, and therefore sometimes you'd have city council members who'd also be on a commission or a committee. I think we've got to the point where we can avoid that. I'm not an advocate of having somebody who's sitting on city council being a voting member of a commission or a committee. I think that should be separated. which means that we need volunteers. So if anybody has the urge, please contact the mayor and volunteer, because he is only too keen to find new volunteers. And as you were saying, that diversifies the situation. Everybody's got great ideas. Let's have more people involved in the process. So, yep, it's a volunteer role. If you've got the passion, please put your hand up and speak to Tommy and say, I'd like to be on a commission or a committee. I mean, we've got some committee members here. We've got Larry. We've got CJ at the back there, Bill. I think Laurie Zonte she did a great job on heading up the architectural committee. I think she's just left, but I mean, sterling work, great fresh ideas, and that's what we need. We need to diversify the thinking so that we get the best results for Fulshear. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, Councilwoman McCrinnick.
So committees and commissions advise the City Council, and the reason the City Council asks for committees and commissions is because one group of people can't do all the work. We have great resources in our community. We have lots of people with lots of ideas that come to the table to put the meat of whatever they're discussing, whether it's architectural design, trees. We have a whole host of committees. We had a sign committee. We had a digital sign committee. But when you have sitting council members serving as active voting members of a committee, you essentially are advising yourself, because ultimately the council will make the decision on the recommendation that comes out of the committee. I actually had a firsthand experience with this. In my first year, during my first term, we formed the digital sign committee. And I was interested in this topic, but I also knew that I'd be making a vote on it. So when the mayor put that committee together, I asked to serve as an ex officio officer, which meant just a liaison. And the purpose of that was to be able to come back to my fellow colleagues on the council and advise them what the committee had done, what the process they had gone through, and how they arrived at their recommendation. I did not participate in votes, and I don't think current council members now should participate in a voting capacity on a committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Murdoch, this question will begin with you. Would you support a policy of putting draft ordinances on the city's website 72 hours prior to council meetings?
Yeah, I think that's fair for the residents to understand and be able to research and be able to come and comment, since the government's here for the people. They'll be able to see what's in research, what their elected officials are voting on. I think that's fair.
Okay. Mr. Ariel, what would you say?
Yeah, I think draft ordinance can be public so that people can prepare and send questions beforehand, so that the moderator or whoever, so that it's not chaos during the meeting and everything is structured. I think there is an administrator who coordinates the meeting. So if he knows what questions he has to answer, I think that makes a meeting more better. So I would think probably that's a good way.
Okay, very good. Mr. Gill, what would you say?
Yes, I absolutely would support draft ordinances being made available on the city's website 72 hours in advance of meetings. It was just said, you know, that gives not only city council but city voters the opportunity to understand the ordinance, and if they have any issues with it, then they can come to the city council meeting prepared, and they have their 3 minutes, 2 minutes, sorry, 2 minutes, isn't it? 3 minutes to say what they feel about that particular ordinance. You know, to let the city council know their feelings. Maybe city council's missed something or hasn't thought of something. It's an opportunity to speak, and if you've got the opportunity 72 hours in advance to research it, you can talk to other field experts and come prepared to the city council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, what would you say?
Absolutely, I would support putting draft ordinances out on the internet, on the city's website or Blackboard, so that people can understand what it is the council is voting on and what they are doing. That is the essence of transparency, and if we should be transparent to the voters, and we should be accountable to you. One of the things that I've encountered is the reason that people say 72 hours, they're thinking, well, why not earlier? Well, for a city council meeting, a council member gets their packet a minimum of 72 hours in advance. That's the state required minimum notice to convene a meeting and conduct business. When you give residents the opportunity to review what you're reviewing, the dialogue increases. Oftentimes, I will reach out to people who I know have been vocal on certain issues that are coming before the council, and oftentimes I'm finding myself having to print out what it is we're considering and send that to them. That's very hard to do for 8,000 people, and so I think it's a more efficient and a more transparent manner to put that on the internet, on the city's website, and allow people to see for themselves what it is we're doing and ask us questions and dialogue more deeply about the issues that we're about to decide.
Excellent, thank you. All right, Mr. Miller, what do you think? 72 hours or no?
Well, yeah, why wouldn't we? Transparency is good. Participation is good. Prepared participation is better. So if serving notice, encourages all those things, then, let's do it.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, believe it or not, this is the last question of the evening. We'll begin over here with you, right where we started. Here we go. Would you be willing to serve as an advocate for ordinance proposals initiated by Fulshear residents for council approval?
Yes, absolutely. Because I am going to be representing the city population and the constituents, so I would definitely be willing to represent them on any ordinances.
Okay. Mr. Gill.
Yes, absolutely. I see that as the fundamental role of a city councilman. So, it is the responsibility to bring forward ordinances that are in line with the requirements and the requests of your constituents. And one of the advantages of home rule, again, is that if a city council person is not respecting that with respect to the wishes and desires of the residents, then, they can bring it to a referendum.
Okay, excellent.
Or initiative, sorry.
Likewise, I would be in favor of advocating, and home rule does exactly that. It gives power to the people where it should be. If council is not being responsive, that is our role. When we are elected, we are your servants. We are not here to advocate our own agendas. We are here to represent and advocate on behalf of you. And so I see that question as a fundamental role of the office we're being elected to in the first place, because that's the definition of public servant. But it's even made more powerful if we pass and adopt home rule and this charter pending on the current ballot.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Mr. Miller, what would you say?
Again, agreed. That's what is a city council, but to serve the constituents, to serve the people, to represent their interests. And if they're not getting it right, then let's introduce some interests and support what people want. So that, again, that encourages participation. That's always a good thing. So absolutely, no problem with that at all.
Okay, Mr. Murdoch, what would you say?
I say government is supposed to be by the people. We, the people, are the government. I mean, we need to work together. I'm going to have to, if elected, I need your ideas. I'm here serving you, and I want to serve your ideas. And if elected, I feel like that's the major part of anybody that is serving at a political level. I think that's what we all want. That's what this country's about. It's taking your ideas, putting them into an ordinance or into a law, and making this country better than what it was before, because I feel like that since the 1700s, this country has produced even better people, and we are a community that has a wealth of knowledge, and participation by more of the individuals than less of them will make this city great.
Excellent. Thank you so much, all of you. We will conclude tonight by letting each of you have 2 minutes for closing remarks. So, Mr. Ariel, we will begin with you. 2 minutes, please.
I'd like to thank everyone, again, the organizer, and especially the audience who came here to listen to us in spite of your very, very busy schedule. I'd like to thank you very, very much. And I'd like to reiterate that why I would like to run is, again, for the people. I'd like to make sure we have our trash collected, our electricity in our homes, our police department has enough resources, our fire department have enough resources. That's something I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on economic development of this city so that we don't have to go to I-90 or to Houston further. So I'd like to bring more business into our city so that our tax dollars are staying within the city and we can enjoy the amenities we can buy with that tax dollars. And again, infrastructure development is very, very important for this city. I'd like to push my agenda of building a road straight that cuts to I-10 so that we don't have to stray along and spend so much of our time and gas and everything. So that's something I would like to very much be clear about what this city is needed. And I would like to come door to door, and I'm going to be very open to the citizens so that I listen to your concerns and bring it into the meetings. And so I think I'll be of utmost importance to the people, help to the people, so that they are going to give me the input and I can bring it to the meetings and make it happen. So I hope you all will vote for me, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Gill, 2 minutes, please.
Once again, thanks to all the organizers and thanks to you for coming out this evening and listening to us all. I would sum up by saying I have the experience to do the job. I've been on City Council for 6 years. Prior to that, I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I love this city. There's a lot of growth over the last 6 years. We've handled it very well, I believe, but there's a lot more to come. I mean, the growth is going to grow exponentially, so there's a lot to be done over the coming years, and I'd like to be a part of that, part of the team. In the time that I was on City Council, we passed we developed a comprehensive plan in conjunction with the citizens of Fulshear. That document is still good today, and we're using that as the roadmap forward. The zoning ordinance is still in place, and that has helped the city in terms of its growth. I was very much part of those initiatives, and I really enjoyed the work on City Council doing that. I want to be able to do that going forward. I'm a CPA, so I have the experience to look at some of the issues that this city is going to be facing going forward in terms of funding and financing future projects. And again, I want to be part of the team to do that. So I would be very grateful for your vote on May the 7th or before. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Councilwoman Krennick, 2 minutes, please.
Again, thank you to each of you for coming out and listening to the candidates and taking the time to educate yourself and inform yourself about what each of us stands for and what you can expect from each of us as council members. I appreciate the opportunity having been elected 2 years ago to the City Council. It has been a privilege to serve each of you. It has been a privilege to work and help design and implement the framework for our city. I don't come to City Council with my own agenda. I come with your interests, your desires in my heart, and by nature, I'm an advocate, I'm an attorney, and I dig in, I roll up my sleeves, I'm willing to do the work. I think my past record demonstrates that I'm willing to get in there and advocate for what's best for Fulshear. Some of the top priorities that have been set forth in the comprehensive plan, which was adopted by previous councils, that document is still a good document. It is a roadmap, and it tells us where to go. Additionally, adding the benefit of the Home Rule Charter will solidify who we are as a city and give us an identity and only strengthen our sustainability going forward. I want to capitalize on our relationships that have been developed by our staff and our council and our mayor to bring solid, sustainable, and responsible economic development. We need to focus and stay focused on the mobility issues that face the city and continue to monitor our infrastructure, our water, and our wastewater system. Again, I'm very grateful to have been able to serve each of you for the last 2 years, and I ask for your support and your vote on May 7th. And early voting starts April 25th, so avoid the lines, come right here to this building and cast your vote, and I look forward to serving you again for another 2 years.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Miller, 2 minutes, please.
Well, like everybody else, I want to thank you folks who put this thing on. This is really neat and really necessary. And thanks for everybody for showing up, participating, for caring. And this is how we're going to get Fulshear through these growing pains, through events like this. because I'm not from here. I just live here. I just got here. My kids are from here. Fulshear is their hometown, and we're kind of at this crux. What kind of hometown is that going to be? And I think we all want to see this community to maintain and grow and keep its autonomy. That way we can tell people like, I'm from Fulshear. People are like, oh yeah, Fulshear. I've been there. It's such a neat place. And not to get swallowed up by the suburban sprawl where we kind of end up another nondescript West Houston suburb that nobody's ever heard of. For my part, what I bring to it, I have an extensive background and event production and promotion, and I think I can really, really help promote the tourism here. Don, I want to help you put these things on, buddy. I do. And I have a recreation and park background that I think I can really, really contribute to guide and build these parks we want to build. And for the rest of it, I hope that my legal background and my experience doing due diligence in the oil and gas field will help me to hit the ground running and catch up on the rest. I'd just like to help if I can.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Murdoch, if you'll wrap it up for us tonight, 2 minutes, please.
Sweet. I want to thank you for moderating. I want to coach for whistling. I want to thank all the people that made this happen. Thank you so much for allowing us to be able to share our views. And one thing I want to do first and foremost is build a wall that separates Fulshear from everybody. No, I'm just kidding. We can bring a wall together, a make-believe wall. Make Fulshear Fulshear. You hear of these Friscos and these Sugarlands and the Woodlands to Disney World. We can make Fulshear our own unique paradise. I feel like that. God's given me the passion to serve you, and that's what I want to do for the 2 years is to serve your interest. I feel like He's given me a gift that brings that passion, your interest to life, and without that, we won't make Fulshear Fulshear and have this community be what it can be. And we can have that wall up where everybody looks at Fulshear and says, that's what we want to be like. We want to be like Fulshear. Thank you. And thank you for coming out.
Excellent. Let's give all the candidates a round of applause, would you please? Candidates, thank you for your time. Residents, thank you for your time as well. And Randy, you need to close it up for a couple of remarks?
Let's give Pastor Mike and plugging another round of applause.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for coming.
All right, vote on May the 7th. Good night.
Thanks for doing that, man. I appreciate it. Good job.
Huh?
This was very effective.
Did you make me look good?
You know,
It's hard to do.
He's got some sort of special style.
Hey, thanks, man.